In this really in-depth podcast, we're going to be looking at the North Node in the sign of Taurus, and the South Node in the sign of Scorpio in the natal chart. Now, I have I prepared some coffee while doing this podcast because this may be a long one, because I have so much that I want to talk about with this, as it is my personal placement. I really want to give it the full attention and respect that it deserves. So, I just want to get into it, and I'll tie it back to my life, and I'll do all of that. The very first thing that I'm going to do before I even get into what I have is I'm going to read from the quintessential book on the nodes through the signs, and that is Jan Spiller's Astrology for the Soul. This book is like a Bible for the North Node. This is the book to learn about your North Node. She goes so in depth. She breaks it down. Personality, looks at past lives, looks at relationships, looks at your needs. She looks at it all in this book, and it's just so well done. And I got it back June 2023, and I've been reading it ever since. I've read most of the chapters. I just haven't read the North Node in Capricorn and Sagittarius chapter. And it also has the nodes outlining in the front of the book with the transits, so you can see, what you were born when the nodes are in those signs. So, kind of tattered this book because I didn't know what happened to it. I must have carried it around, and the pages got kind of like it's very, very old, but it's still readable, and it's still very, very good in its condition. So, I'm not going to read through this whole thing because that would take forever, and I would get exhausted before I've even begun. Instead, I'm going to turn to the page where she breaks down the tendencies to leave behind. I don't think I'm going to do this for every nodal placement, but just this one, since it is mine. I'll see. Okay, I may change my mind, but I'm just going to say it right now. This is the only time that I will be doing this from this book. You can go check out the book. It's on Amazon. You can buy it wherever. So, page 63. I mean, this may not be as long as I think it will be. Who knows? Okay. So, in this, she talks about the North Node in Taurus, but also the second house, because having your North Node in Taurus means that your opposite sign, the South Node, is in Scorpio, which means that it's in the 8th house, because it's opposite. Now, I'm going to go in the reverse order of what she has, because I think we need to start out with the South Node and look to the North Node secondary. So I want to start with the tendencies to leave behind first. That's not how it's written in the book. It has the attributes to develop first, but I want to do the tendencies to leave behind and then complete the story with the attributes to develop, and we'll see what comes up. So the tendencies to leave behind with Scorpio South Node, working to reduce the influence of these tendencies can make life easier and more enjoyable. The first tendency is there is this pull that Scorpio South Node has to these really, really dramatic, very unstable situations, which are crisis situations. That's what it says, attraction to crisis situations. And these situations are just so extreme with, people, getting, killed or trying to survive in a, getting attacked, or just in your life if something goes wrong and if you lose something or whatever the crisis situation is. And this is the first tendency. So this means that, in my life, for example, I watched many episodes of I Survived and those types of shows like that, because I was very, very attracted to other stories and how, very attracted to the getting deep and getting sucked into and how deep the stories are, and how riveting they would be when it comes to, because this is crisis. This is like when they go deep into their crisis stories. Then I get very, very interested, and I can feel myself getting pulled down to the south node. And sometimes it feels draining, but other times it feels good. Like, this feels familiar. This feels like I'm obsessed and I'm invested in sitting with this crisis in my life. So that's the first tendency. The second tendency is, well, you're so concerned with what everybody else is doing, everybody else's stuff, everybody else's problems with their life is, that you are not concerned with yourself. There's an over-concern with other people's business. When it comes to being so wrapped up in what are they doing? What do they think? What's going on with them? What are their issues? And I mean, growing up, when I was in special ed in school, I was really, really drawn to the drama of these kind of things. I was drawn to the crisis situations, the arguments. Like, I am so drawn to arguments and fighting, because I am drawn to the adrenaline, and it's genuinely a joy to me to sit and listen to people argue, and listen to the fighting, and to be looking in on that crisis situation, and on that drama, and on that over concern with other people's business, when it comes to just what's going on with them, and all their issues. I'm just fascinated with that, and I'm so engaged with that, and I want to be the only focus, and I want it to stay there until it's done. And so there's an over concern with just what other people are doing, to where you're just so externalized out into the world that you're not looking within yourself to your life, your business. This is not a lifetime, if you have North Node and Taurus, for you to be just so focused on what everybody else is doing. The next tendency, this is a very, very big one, impatience. This is a big one for me, because I have my Aries Sun energy. That's not very patient. That's very, very, impulsive or whatever. And, with impatience, there's a desire to just get things done now. I want to get things done now, but with Scorpio, it's not like Aries. It's more of a obsessive, compulsive thing where you want it done right now. And, you will do anything in your power. Well, you will work so hard, and you will be so intense about it, that you will get that thing done, as soon as you can. And there is this tendency to just, be so impatient, and not, be patient, and learn the value of patience when it comes to what's going on around you. And the Taurus North Node is about patience. So, impatience is something about just wanting it done now, and being obsessive about it, not taking your time. Because Scorpio just wants to go all in, and it doesn't want to wait, and it wants to put all its intensity and focus into it to get it done as soon as it can, because it just feels it so intensely it can't control itself. The next tendency is being intense in a way that's uncalled for. And I would say to this, making mountain out of molehills. What catching yourself being so intense, being so strong, that's uncalled for, that's exaggerated, that's inappropriate. And I find that with myself. I have my Mercury in Taurus, which helps me to ground and move into my North Node, which is like my thinking, whatever, my thought process, and my being able to think in that way. So that really, really helps me achieve my North Node. But there is this thing about just forcing your point on, and and just, going all in with a point that you want to make, or, becoming really, really mad, and becoming very, very, in relationship situations, getting in and being the one who's just so intense, but it's just too much intensity. Like, you have to turn the volume knob down on the intensity level. That's what this is saying. The next tendency is something that I have had my whole life, and that is being judgmental of others. It's just a natural thing to look at others and judge them. Like, for me, it's just so natural. I cannot look at a person, be in a conversation, without being so tuned in to judging them for their flaws, and judging them for, I guess, astrologically, what's really going on beneath the surface. What are their true motives? That's what Scorpio is about. But in general, just judging them, like, internally, judging them, and not seeing the light and good in them, and not seeing their worth for who they really are, as opposed to what they've said. Instead, judging them for, the little details when it comes to just, what they say, to the point where you're so sucked into that you're not seeing that they mean well, and seeing, all the good things that they have with that. So I find that a very, very huge tendency. And then going along with this, just so consumed with other psychology, just so into what others are thinking, others are doing, what's going on emotionally with them, like being overly concerned with others' stuff that you're not concerned with yourself. That's the message here. This is kind of an interesting one, the next one that comes up. Dang it. I have to stop here just for a second. I had my coffee, thinking that I wouldn't spill it, and I did, so I had to just change my shirt out real quick. Okay. So now I'm back. Alright. So, resistance to coping with what others want. What? This can go along with not trusting others. This can be being very, because Scorpio is a fixed sign, it's very stubborn, holds on to things, but just being so attached to the drama and the intensity of having your way is what I think this is about. Like, being so powerful, and just being so intense with your power that you're not just relaxing and being present and saying, well, this is what they want. And instead of being all intense and mighty and powerful, I'm going to just give it to them. And just let go. And just not be so intense with holding on to your point and fighting against them and doing whatever. But just giving it to them. Like, just handing it over in a Taurus, gentle, kind, honest, heartfelt way is what I'm interpreting that as being. Overreacting to things is another tendency. I've certainly done that. I've certainly become very, very intense. Okay. This is the thing with me. I've been told by family and other things, like I make mountains out of molehills. I over-exaggerate my reactions. I don't, react in very subtle ways. I don't often take a breath oftentimes and just react very subtly and very even-keeled and very reasonably about things. I tend to overreact and get very, very dramatic and get very, like something was not working with the technology problem, and I broke down and I, cried, and I was very, very upset because this thing was, just very, very recently that the thing wasn't working, or other situations where I've overreacted to things. It was very, very dramatic, probably throughout my whole life. I'm just overreacting to situations. Now the next one, I can speak to this one very well. The next one has to do with the unreasonable action of taking something that is so... this is what the tendency says. Overcoming something in order to eliminate one part of it. Okay, I've found this, so big. Because Scorpio takes things to extremes. Takes things to these very, very big extremes. Like, I can tell you, I made a whole podcast about this the other day, and thank goodness I did. Otherwise, I'd go on a rant about it here in this video. So, it's best that I get that out on my other Real Me podcast. But I was talking about how I deleted things. How I deleted YouTube channels and videos because of these silly little reasons to eliminate one little detail, and then I just went through the whole thing and deleted the whole thing. And and I found that to be a case in my life where I just take things to extremes. Like, if it doesn't go right one time, then the whole thing is done. Or if it's just a little bit here, then it's just the whole thing. That is so me in my life, and I found that to be the case several times. And with this, it was like, I couldn't put timestamps in the video, deleted the whole channel. I wanted to start fresh, and I didn't think about saving the videos, deleted the whole channel. I wanted to only create my own posts and not share others, deleted the whole post and all those kind of things like that. I wasn't patient to, going along with patience, to wait for, just to wait it out before downloading more videos. Deleted all the videos. So it's these little things that I do that just, I take this little things and just blow it up to extremes. That's what this is saying. And then the last tendency is very, very personal to me, because the last one is corresponding to a disorder that I have had for, my nodal return. When I had my nodal return back January 2nd of 2023, I was in OCD. I was in being obsessive compulsive over things. Like, this is very, very tendency, like wanting to dig down deep until you uncover it and be absolutely sure. And it's very, very Virgo perfectionism and rituals. But it's like, I'm just not satisfied enough because I'm not digging deep enough. And perfectionism, and that kind of goes along with it. But it's kind of, the obsessive compulsive tendency of being so in that obsessive compulsive state of just doing things over and over again. And it's not a grounded state. Like, you're obsessive compulsive, or you're not calm, you're not grounded, you're not just relaxing. And that's the Taurus North Node. Like you're gonna feel like, if you have this placement, you're gonna know, or if you have this dynamic in your chart, you're gonna know what energy you're leaning into based off of what you're doing. Like, if you're being obsessive compulsive and very, very like, I gotta get to the bottom of this, I gotta do this, I'm going into extremes, that's the Scorpio South Node. But if you're calm and gentle about it, and you're not, doing all that kind of thing like that when it comes to just, relaxing about it, then you're leading into Taurus. Okay, so those are the tendencies to leave behind. Now, I'm going to move on to the attributes to develop, which is the Taurus North Node, which I think makes more sense to talk about. Work in these areas can help uncover hidden gifts and talents. Okay. So the very, very first thing is being loyal. Like, really, really just, being connected to somebody, being, close to them, being very, by their side, understanding the importance of committed relationships and not, the distrusting, not the negative dynamics in a relationship. This is another thing that goes along with understanding others' business, is being aware that you can't just merge into anyone. That you cannot just expect to get involved with other people's drama and other people's emotions. Like, you have to set some parameters around this. You have to set some boundaries around this and say, I am focusing on myself, and I'm respecting others' boundaries. I'm respecting their business. I'm respecting their life without getting caught up in that. The next one is very, very huge. Taking things one step at a time, not rushing through it, not being so, compulsive over it and rushing. Like, I gotta get this done now. I gotta get this done now. You're putting your full intensity and focus on it. Like, I had that tendency, and I'm still learning this as I go through life, and I tend to want to go back to doing things in an intense way, and I'm trying to balance it out as I go through life. So I really feel like I'm leading into my North Node now, and I very kind of have a feeling of leaning into that. I'm very much connected to my North Node, very much on the side of my North Node. So taking things one step at a time, just slowing it down, understanding that things are not going to happen overnight. Slow it down, take things one step at a time, do a little bit, take a break, come back to it, and then you'll find that fulfillment after that. Now, another big one, which I'm going to continue to talk about, is self-worth. This is very, very huge, because self-worth is the energy of feeling good about who you are, feeling worthy of value, feeling good inside yourself about who you are, and that's what you're asked to develop. And knowing what you value, like, what do you really, really value? What what matters to you in your life? What are your values? And what are values? Values, as it says on Google, are deep-seated beliefs and guiding principles that shape, direct, and motivate an individual's or organization's actions, decisions, and behavior. So what motivates you to do those things? What matters to you in a way it will influence this. Provide meaning and act on a moral compass for prioritizing what is truly important, and help people preserve through adversity. Common types include personal, organization, ethical, and social values. So when you're true to your values, you are saying these things are not as important as these other things. And you're prioritizing, these are the things that are most valuable to me in my life, and I'm going to devote my time and energy into these things. It's very, very, instead of getting wrapped up in others' stuff and others' values. More on that to come. Patience. I think I've already covered that, being very, very patient with not rushing things. And not being afraid to, because Scorpio could hold in things, could hide things that it's not afraid to let it out, not afraid to, and at worst, it could not hold the space for others to let out their feelings, vent their feelings. So it's actually, what this comes down to is, like, I had these really, really deep feelings inside of me, because South Node in Scorpio comes in with strong intuition and very, very strong feelings. And they can't, it's very, very unhealthy to repress these feelings and hold these things in, rather to use the high root of Scorpio, which is to be vulnerable and share these things, of yourself, and be open to others sharing those things, and respecting that they have their own emotions, they have their own things to express, really, allowing for that. Scorpio South Node can be really, really cut off from the present moment, cut off from their five senses, constantly in their heads about psychology, in the drama, in the mug of intensity. And they're working so hard and they're going so intensely at something that they forget to be present. They forget to open up to, what do I taste? What do I touch? What do I smell? What do I see? What do I hear? And so in this life, they are learning to look at the world around them and just notice, like, I'm feeling the desk, the table on my desk. I'm feeling the nice, comfortable clothes that I'm wearing. Like, that's a very, very important thing for Scorpio South Node into, is wearing clothes that you like. As a kind of going along with, self-worth, not just wearing clothes just because others will like the clothes that you're wearing, which I completely disagree with. Wearing uncomfortable clothes that are not you for others, no. I will not be doing that in my life unless it feels right and it feels true and it feels like the right thing to do. In my soul. Like, I am this evolved, know that I will not live from that low place of, just so, trying to please others with the things that I'm not valuing myself. Because I feel insecure about myself, about, so I don't want to get ahead of myself with that. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more later. But enjoying the five physical senses is what this is saying. You're leaning into the energy of gratitude. You're leaning into gratitude. And gratitude is just appreciating the things, seeing the value of things, seeing how things are important and enjoying those things. Seeing what they mean and why they are meaningful. So leaning into gratitude, and we can often associate Taurus with being connected to the material world, and that is part of it, but it's also just the physical, senses, and being grateful for the simple things, because South Node and Scorpio can put itself into a depression and hole, and, caught up in the dark, deep emotions of stuff that it forgets to, look at the Taurus who says, well, you need to come up to earth to experience the state of gratitude. And so, experiencing what it's like to feel content within yourself, to feel abundant, to feel prosperous. Don't you want to feel like, a good question for Scorpio to ask, which goes along with values, is what does prosperity mean to you? Whatever makes you feel happy and abundant, and life is worth meaningful, and whatever just gives you that sense of, I'm fulfilled now. That's what prosperity is. It's not just money and goals, and that's one definition for it. But what do you define as prosperity? What makes you feel prosperous? And doing those things will really help, Taurus North Node to, the Taurus North Node person to move into that North Node. So gratitude is one. And then just opening up to nature, opening up to the beauty of nature, Mother Earth, and just forgiveness. Forgiveness of self, forgiveness of others, and this was really, really tough for me over the past couple of years, because I've been stuck in all these regrets with all these things that I was doing, judging myself for all this compulsive Scorpionic deleting and channel surfing that I did, which was very, very compulsive and not very slow and taking my time. And if I did that, I'd probably be like, well, maybe I shouldn't do this, or maybe I should do a little bit, but I should not do the whole thing. Like, it is leading to the energy of forgiveness, like forgiving yourself, for your past wounds and for others hurting you. And the other thing is staying the course. being very, very persistent. Not in a way that is intense and, on and on it, but in a way that's just grounded and slow and steady, like steady Eddie. Slow and steady wins the race. That's kind of one of your mantras in this life. Slow and steady wins the race. When it comes to being very persistent and what you're actually achieving. So I thought that I might read that to you just to kind of get this video started. Now, getting into some information that I have to give you on this placement. This is where the video gets into it. We're already 31 minutes in, so this is going to be long. Some of this stuff I've already kind of talked about, so we'll see how long this video turns out to be. I think it is so appropriate that I just gave myself another cup of coffee, and I'm talking about Taurus North Node. Isn't it perfect? Because coffee is like sensual, it's like, just the simple pleasures and treating yourself, and it's like I'm making myself feel good by taking my time and really taking it seriously in a way where I'm doing it in a Taurus-like way with essential pleasures, and doing what feels good about myself. I just have to say that because it's so perfect. Now, let's just get into the basics of these things, because what is the North Node? What are we actually focused on here? Well, the North Node in astrology, and by the way, I should say that I'm going to be making a whole series of videos on the North Nodes, on the rest of the North Nodes eventually, but I'm doing this here because it's the Sunday podcast and anything goes on the Sunday podcast. So, astrology, other stuff, whatever I feel called to do, and I just felt really, really compelled to do this video, so here I am doing it. So, okay. All right. Take my time, because it's going to be a lot. The North Node is basically your purpose, your dharma. You can think about it that way. It is what you want to lean into. In this life. It is, what your purpose is, what your soul is calling you towards, your soul's mission, spiritual fulfillment. Now, with the North Node in Taurus, you are being asked to become comfortable with what is material, to become comfortable with these attending to your material needs, shopping for food, cooking, being in nature, dressing yourself, like all these things, being comfortable with what the material world has to offer and what you're doing in that material world. This is not a lifetime to just let what others think of you and what others' values are of you and let them project onto you, where they affect you and they pull you back into your South Node and they define who you are. This is a lifetime to say, no, I'm not going to be defined by what others have to, what others, want from me and want for me. I'm going to live a life according to what I personally value. And it can be so empowering and so liberating to live a life like this. I have to give you an example. I just feel so sorry for my friend. His chart, he has Lilith in Taurus and the North Node in Taurus, both in Taurus, and he was restricted from living a life of his own values with his interests and his everything when it comes to, and he's around my age, so I knew him in school, when it comes to others just rejecting him for doing what he wants to do, basically, like, what he's interested in doing. There's always a rejection, there's always a restriction. He was pulled down, and he had to kind of prove his worth to others and not just being his own self with his own values. Like, he wasn't given the freedom and the power to be able to do that. And, Lilith and Taurus is like the shadow, what you have to face of that. So that's also your shadow that you're wanting to face. So, and, it's also, the sad thing about Lilith is it's also, from my understanding of it, what others reject of you. So it is kind of like, I'm sad when I look at the chart. I'm sad when I think of this friend with the North Node and Taurus, because a lot of growing up, he had to rely on others to help him in school. Parents had high expectations. They would restrict him from speaking his mind. They would restrict him from doing his his video games and the things that he was really interested and invested in. Like, just imagine that. Imagine a childhood going through your life constantly, restricted from doing what your soul wants to do. Like that is just so sad. And he had the North Node and Taurus, and I'm like, you like I'm not going to say rise above it, because it's so difficult when you're so sucked into that, but can you just breathe and connecting with yourself and say, this is bothering me, this is draining me, I choose to be true to myself, and I'm not going to let others define who I am. It's very huge. So not relying on others' values. Now, Scorpio South Node, you can think of past lives, you can think of, I'm going to discuss kind of both perspectives of this here, and, what is young. And very, very likely, I may have to just stop during this and then come back, because there's just so much to talk about here. Hopefully it will work that way. I think that it will. So in past lives, looking at it from the perspective of past lives, in past lives, others, you had to earn your keep and prove your worth to others. And you had to rely on others to provide for you and do all these things, to the point where you were so sucked into that you lost the awareness that, wow, this is constricting me. Wow, this is suffocating me from taking care of myself, from living life according to my own values. And so when you were young, there was a lot. It was a very, very tough past life, because crisis, changes. Like, Taurus in this life is here to just live a life of peace, live a life of simplicity, live a life like. I am so glad that I have this North Node, because it just is so stable to me. And it's like, wow, I mean, if I had a Scorpio North Node, I would be very, very envious of those who had Taurus North Node, because I'm telling you, it is so liberating to be grounded within yourself and to get away from the drama and the crisis, but to live a life of peace. And so you may be very, very familiar with crisis, with that energy of constantly moving about in constant, dark situations with that. And so crisis is an unstoppable, dangerous, and acute emotional situation often caused by sudden, overwhelming events when normal coping mechanisms fail. So these sudden, overwhelming things that have happened to you really will affect you very, very strongly in your life, and you were caught up in that, in past lives and in your early life. Okay. So, something that I already talked about is I've already talked about this: staying the course of things and having the patience to commit to it. Like being patient, taking things one step at a time. I think I already established that. I already established that South Node in Scorpio is similar to having your North Node in the second house. Now, the South Node is what is familiar to you. If the North Node is what you're heading towards, the South Node, I'm going to tell you right that the North Node is not a comfortable territory. Like, you're uncomfortable with comfort. Like you're comfortable with discomfort, but you're uncomfortable with the actual energy of peace and comfort. It's just so, this placement is just so fascinating to me. How can somebody feel with having this placement? Like, what does it feel like? And I know that because I have it and I've experienced it. It's just such an interesting experience to feel into and understand, because it's like you're uncomfortable with what is dark and what is uncomfortable and all that, and you're discomfortable with peace. Like, when there's quiet and when there's not enough noise and drama going around, there's an insecurity. There's like a need to stir up the pot, a need to make things happen, to provide that stimulation that you need to keep the adrenaline of the Scorpio going. And so the North Node is what you're not comfortable with. It's like, you're a baby and you're learning to walk. And you're stepping into this new territory, and you are slowly trying to, work your way up in the world with this. And this is a new area. This is something that your soul is unfamiliar with. The South Node is the opposite. It is your comfort zone, to your detriment sometimes. To your detriment, because it keeps you small. It keeps you stuck in a loop of repeating the same patterns over and over again, lifetime after lifetime. Repeating these things over and over in this cycle that doesn't end, until you have to have the awareness to say, I want this to end. And I want to go in a new direction with my soul. So what is already familiar to you, it's like it's so natural to you to lean into that. Like, it's just a familiar feeling. You can just drop into it. It's like you don't even have to, you can do it in your sleep. You can, it's like breathing. It's so natural. It's like walking. It's so natural. That's what your South Node is. And so it's your habit patterns. Your habit patterns that may be familiar to you and may be comfortable to you, but also the habit patterns that may hold you back from your evolution in this lifetime. Because this is not a lifetime to do the same thing over and over. This is a lifetime to do something different, to change the story, to go to a new place and do this new thing, for instance. So, another thing about the South Node is that it's exaggerated. It is an like you've overdone it. It's out of balance. It's like you've gone too far in the teeter-totter, or you've gone too far in this direction that you need to go in the other direction. It's like an exaggerated part of you. It's just the strongest part of who you are that is overdone, and you have to bring it back into balance with the North Node. Like, it's not just follow your North Node and ignore your South Node. It is a balance, releasing the shadows of the South Node, leading into the South Node in a way that is also in a North Node way, balancing those two energies out and not killing yourself with filling your North Node. And also, I think, by leading into your South Node and the positive qualities of that, you are also then leading into your North Node, because it's not meant to be just one or the other. If you lead into your North Node too much, you'll kill yourself, and you'll be unsatisfied with the results, and you'll be discomfortable. Like, there is growth, but there also has to be the comfort and familiarity. Like, we need both. So, other dynamics with the Scorpio South Node. Abuse. Very, very strong abuse. Also, in past lives and early lives, negative power dynamics, like really, really being sensitive to others having power over you, with how powerful and intense they were. I mean, I had a teacher in school that was, abused her power, was very, very in students' faces and yelling and being very firm, and that was like sucking me back down to the South Node. And that was in my early life. And I described that on my in the Real Me podcast about my school experience, and I go in depth as to that. going through a lot of trauma in your early years. Also, now, okay, so the next thing is just the just the distrust in others, and just the real distrust in other people. You can't just let them in. You can't just receive and form healthy relationships with them because you are so afraid that they're going to hurt you, that they're going to betray your trust. Like Scorpio is not like is so not trustworthy of others because they're very, very discerning about that, because they don't want to be betrayed and hurt, because they're very, very tuned into the negative dynamics in psychology and the negative parts of life. They're very tuned into the darker aspects of human nature. So, naturally, they are going to become very distrustworthy, not trustworthy of others. So you're afraid that they're going to hurt you. You're not leading into the relationship of healthy relationships, which is also Taurus, which is also grounded, which is also that quality. And so as an adult, as you grow older, you are learning to create an environment that is stable and safe for your soul. It's not filled with the drama or the sudden change or the sudden movement, like the sudden change and all that kind of movement. I'm going to say something kind of contradictory this later, though I'm going to tell you that right now. Looking at a deeper look at the Scorpio North Node, this is just the the more obvious aspect that you would typically find about the Scorpio, the Taurus North Node, and then the other is going to be more like something that you wouldn't think. So I'll get to that later. Something like I wouldn't think that about that. Well, but there's layers to it, and I actually really resonated with aspects of that. So anyway, creating a safe and stable environment in your life, creating stability in your life. I think that is, I'm just going to leave it as a general statement. Now, when I was little, I did this. With my pretend things that I would put on, where I would tend to be mad, I would tend to be drama, and I would be so feeling intro, I would be so wanting to sit down in the emotions of feeling betrayed, feeling lack of power, feeling like my power is taken away, feeling like I had to defend myself and fighting in battle, and all these kind of things like that, and getting mad and expressing my emotions in a very intense way. And it was fun for me, but there were a couple times when it just felt so draining that I was sacrificing just my state of being and my peace for just enjoying my life in the real world, with the realistic life that I could be living, instead of the pretend world of sucking me back myself back down into the South Node. So there's a desire here to bring about crisis. If crisis is not already going on, you just want to create the crisis. You just want to, because it just feels so good. Feels like just such a rush to get that, that adrenaline rush of the crisis. Because it makes you feel alive for Scorpio South Node. When this life is not necessarily feeling alive, it's about feeling grounded and stable. So, this whole thing has to kind of go away here. Now, I kind of already stated this before, you're so concerned with others' drama. Often you sacrifice your own peace of mind. You're so concerned with others' drama. And not only, I have to give this example of this. I didn't emphasize this enough on my podcast that I just recorded. Not letting others, and the things that you have to do with others, sacrifice your peace of mind. I'll give you an example of how this played out. I was in a literature class in my first semester of college, and there was an assignment that I found out that was due that day, that I just found out that all weekend I didn't know that it was due. So I was freaking out. I was stressed about it. I thought that it was going to be due, it was due that day, and I let that get the better of me. And so I did not want to do it because I just felt so drained, and I was in the library typing really, really fast at my keyboard, frantically trying to get it done, and I was like, I'm just going to turn this in, without getting it completely done in the best, most quality way, but then I just couldn't because I was just not familiar with doing that, not familiar with not sacrificing my personal peace, that I was like sucking myself back into working, and draining myself and sacrificing my own peace. And then I went home and I just was stressed, and couldn't enjoy the food that I was eating at dinner. I couldn't have healthy relationships with my family because I was letting the stress of this assignment get the better of my peace of being because I was doing it for somebody else. So I was allowing this to disrupt my own internal contentment, my own internal peace. And I'm like, an assignment for a class is not worth that to me. If it's going to go that far and disrupt my peace and disrupt what I value, I'm not going to do it. That's not right for me. Like, I put up that boundary there. And so, but this is specifically going back to what I was saying, drama when it comes to your peace of mind, the state of being, as I've already seen. There is this tendency to always want to check in with others, always want to see if things are okay, like always seeking the external validation from others. Because you just feel insecure, like you can't validate yourself, you can't feel worthy in yourself, and it's very uncomfortable for you to validate yourself because you're so familiar with looking for the validation elsewhere. But in this life, you're learning to break the habit. Like, the South Node is habits that you need to break. So breaking the habit of always seeking the external stuff and saying, you know what? I do have enough ice cream in my bowl. You know what? I do look good and I enjoy what I'm wearing. You know what? I did do a good job with this, and I feel good about the job that I did. Or I am going to pursue this because this feels right to me. Like, all these things are you not seeking validation from others, but going back to yourself and saying, this is okay, I can do this. And with that, you're going to find a lot of empowerment with that. You're very, very, very much into other psychology. I covered this in the past. This is not a psychological lifetime where you can easily get sucked in by psychology and the dark, the occult, all that stuff. You're not here for that. You're here for, and okay. It's okay to focus on that, but as long as, like, when you feel drained and when you feel like you can't, do that, I have to not contradict myself. Yes, you're not here to do that, but you're also not here to give into it to a point where it keeps you from being and living in this material world. So I caught myself right there and I was like, maybe you should balance this out. But I have to say this because it's so easy to do with North Nodes, because of the past and the North and the future. We labeled the South Node as bad, the North Node is good, but this is very surface level, and it's not. There's layers to this. It's much more. It's deeper than those labels that we put to the South Node and North Node. So this is a lifetime to focus on what is material. Now, you can throw yourself into really risky situations against your values. Very, very, very common. I've done this in the past. You can dress away in a way for others that is like sexual, and that is a way that is against your values. You can go to places that you know in your heart, this is not right for me, this is not aligned with what I value, but you do it because it feels so alive, you feel so restless about it, you want to do it so bad. Because it feels just so natural to, want to lean into those risky situations because of the rush that it gives you. And so I certainly had this with going to, a skate park and associating with people that were not like me at all. They didn't have my personality. They didn't have my interests. Their mannerisms were not like me at all. So I associated with those people, and I dressed in a way that was not aligned with my values. I wore clothes just to attract, be attractive towards or lean into the sexual feeling that was not aligned with my personal values, instead of dressing in the way that I want to dress and not going in the way that I wanted to go at the time when I was riding my electric scooter. So that's my example of that. So attracted to risky, extreme risky and other-oriented experiences that you ignore the more practical side of life. This is about looking at what is practical, what is, real. Okay. Yeah, it's about, what is practical? What is practical in your life? What has a practical application to it? Okay. The next thing is self-worth. Okay, so I think so self-worth, it says, is the unconditional internal belief that you are valuable and deserving of love regardless of achievement or failures. And I'm going to circle back to this. That's what self-worth is. We can't just say, oh, self-worth, and feel good about yourself. We have to understand that it's not. And then it says a difference from self-esteem. Like, the difference is, according to Google, as it says, that self-esteem, which often relies on external factors, improving self-worth involves practicing self-compassion, repairing inner dialogue, setting boundaries, and separating your value from your productivity. So having a good opinion about yourself is self-esteem. But self-worth is not having to prove yourself to others' eyes, not having to work. There's this feeling like having to prove yourself that you are worthy by doing all these things and by doing all this work, because you don't feel like you're not worthy on your own. You think worth is only defined, like you have to earn worth, like you have to do things. That is so not true. Self-worth is loving yourself unconditionally. It is just, you are worthy of love. You are deserving of love as you are. As you are. Just by being, just by living, just by existing. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. And there's a lot of peace when it comes to that. You can really, really lean into the energy of inner peace. Like I'm really, really highlighting. I hope I'm kind of giving you a good, solid case for why you should be very, very concerned with your North Node and Taurus if you have this placement. I hope I'm making a good case with all that I have to give with this. So, the question is also with this is what do you value? Like, what really matters to you in your life? Like, I value a really, really huge value in my life right now that I'm just going to listen and get out of the way before anything else, is that my YouTube channel, doing my astrology videos, that is something that I put a lot of value into. Another thing I value is, cooking. I've gotten interested in cooking. I value music, creating music. I value, my mom. I'm very, very close with my mom. I value the things that can intellectually stimulate me because my Venus is in Gemini. Like, all these values that you have. And it's about becoming into your values and defining your values for yourself. And if you're stuck in the energy of not knowing what you value, then find things that you like. Find things that you genuinely enjoy doing apart from what others want you to do, and those will, over time, become things that you might very well value. Defining self-worth through others, feeling like you're only worthy through others' eyes, instead of what you value yourself. That is the downside of this placement, and the downside of, signs like Libra, especially. Defining it through others. I don't think I have to go any more into that. Self-worth. Stop seeking external validations. Another thing is maybe you had these sexual attractions, because Scorpio deals a lot with sex. These sexual attractions to others, defining your sense of self-worth through these sexual attractions, like sexual attractions when you're engaging sexually with others in a way where, with your body, you know what that means. And so you're defining your worth based off of that sexual action in doing that, instead of just the more clean, the more pure kind of, defining it for yourself. You really, really delve into that. Things like money. Your relationship to money really, really matters. I have Neptune in the second house. I've been very, very resistant to money my whole life. And, reframing your narratives around money. That all these things that you were conditioned into about money by people who had power over you is probably making you not feel so good about money. And Taurus is about the second house, the money that you earn. The money that you earn in your life through your own efforts and your own merit. So this life is about having how good it feels to earn your own money, or here to feel that sense of self-worth and feeling good about yourself through I've worked hard and I've achieved this money. Like there's a sense of satisfaction because of the work that went into that. And you feel good about yourself when you make money. So you're here to experience a more positive version of that. Things like art, food, cooking, getting with the senses and getting into using your hands and using your senses and all the the textures and all that. Material things. Also, the material world, like you're focused on the material world this lifetime and putting your attention onto this. Now, your soul in this life, as I've stated before, wants peace. It craves peace. It is important to understand that things take time. You're here to take your time. Things don't happen overnight. So if you can wait it out and do all that, then things are going to be. Another lesson is being present. Getting out of the drama, getting out of all that, and being present in the here and now. Living in a mindful way. Just breathing, looking around you, noticing things. Living one day at a time. In a grounded way, like when you're present, you're more grounded, you're more centered. You're more in your value when it comes to the energy of feeling good about yourself, and you're more peaceful when you are present. So another thing is spending time in nature. Really looking at the flowers and looking at how beautiful, smelling the flowers, gardening, planting a garden, going out to your backyard, going into a park, or a forest or something like that, or just going outdoors, because it really will help you milking it for all it's worth. Okay, now moving into a deeper interpretation of the North Node in Taurus. Now let's just acknowledge right here and now that this is a difficult placement for the North Node in the sign of Taurus. It's a difficult placement because Taurus and Scorpio are fixed signs, and the North Node in Scorpio is tough. It is a tough placement because you have to let go of all these material things and all these attachments to doing it on your own and all the familiar and all the comfort, and you have to move, you're kind of forced to move into all this discomfort and all this unfamiliarity, and relying on others and giving up control and humility and transforming and and living a life of risk and taking risks. Like the North Node in Scorpio is very, very difficult. It's a difficult placement. I'm not going to apologize for saying that or do whatever, because it is tough to live with. And I honestly have to say, I'm so glad that I do not have that placement. I'm so glad that I have what I have. Which is something which I feel is more easier, probably because I'm a Taurus North Node, and I'm not a Scorpio North Node, where my soul is like calling me in that direction that feels unfamiliar. Like it's like intuition, how your intuition propels you in directions that you're unfamiliar with, but it feels right. Like the North Node can be kind of your shortcut to enlightenment, with what your intuition is telling you. It can bring you enlightenment. It can bring you Dharma in this lifetime if you only go in that direction. Like the nodes are very common in Vedic astrology. So the nodes in Taurus and Scorpio are very, very difficult. Because what I read is that the moon is in, I already know this, but this validated it, the moon is in fallen Scorpio. So it has to dig deep into the emotions, like it's unsettled emotionally. It's like so, insecure and feeling unloved and feeling like the world is their dark place, like not feeling nurtured emotionally. That's why the moon is fallen Scorpio and exalted in Taurus, because it's so stable. Like you feel so grounded, you feel so nurtured by the earth. Like the moon is exalted in Taurus, and if I could have my moon in Taurus, I would very easily have my moon in Taurus. Because it would really, and the North Node in Taurus. But this is a difficult combination. Let's not label abuse to be just Taurus North Node. It's a lot of things. And some other feelings that can go along with this is just loneliness. There's this lonely feeling, like I can't be loved. Nobody's gonna love me. Nobody's gonna care for me. Nobody's there for me. Nobody really sees what I have with my value. Like it's a sad life to live if you're living a life where others are not seeing you for who you are, the true, real you. Like it's sad to live a life like that. Just imagine living a life like that. And that's my perception of my friend, where others did not appreciate and accept him for who he was, with all his quirks and all his things like that. Yes, he had certain challenges, but it was like judging and putting down and like, you have a problem here, you have a problem there, and constantly putting him down and not acknowledging the good parts about him and the what he has to offer to the world that is valuable. So there's feelings of isolation with others in that way. Now, very, very interestingly, Scorpio is so sucked into the energy of change. Like it's so familiar with how difficult change can be, that naturally, if you become so sucked into how difficult it is, you become afraid of it. And so actually, I find this so resonant to myself when I find this so resonant with myself, because I'm very resistant to change. I'm very uncomfortable with change, especially. We all are, but anyway. But being present with it means I'm relaxing. When you are grounded within yourself, and when you have a solid sense of peace within yourself, then you are more open, like, okay, what does the universe have to give to me? Like, I'm open to what the universe has to provide. I think I'll be okay with this change because I feel worthy within myself. I feel secure within myself and my own being that, this change is going to be scary, but I can get through it. It's validating yourself and believing in yourself. This is what it's all about. So the other thing is changing before you are ready to change. You're easily forced into change. Instead of naturally leaning into the change, you were forced into it. So it creates the fear of change. And you're also learning to confront, now we're looking at the high road of your Scorpio South Node now. So confronting all your dark shadows and parts of you, confronting those steps so that you can heal that and then ultimately move into peace. You find peace and self-worth and empowerment through confronting what is the shadow step inside of you. You can't achieve that if you have all these shadows and you don't integrate those things, and if you don't confront those things, if you don't, let those things let those things be what they are, accept them, and come face to face with them. You cannot achieve peace unless you are whole in that way. There is I think I already covered this before, a fear of not being trusted. A fear of not being trusted. Instead of always having to rely on others for trust, you're learning to trust yourself. Self-trust. Self-trust. So, knowing that you know right from wrong, that your emotions are true for you in that way. And self-trust that you know that you can get through the tough stuff in life, that you know that you can get through whatever obstacle that you are presented with. Knowing that you can, do this, very, very well, and you can, get through these things, trusting yourself, trusting yourself through whatever change. And I had OCD, okay, and I had this placement. And so trusting myself that I could get through this by having a solid sense of self-worth, feeling worthy about myself, loving myself, so that I could break the compulsive Scorpio habit of the obsessive wiping and the washing and all this. So that's how self-worth and OCD go together, because OCD is so Scorpio. And I asked my somebody in my life about how does OCD and self-worth go together, and they kind of asked me what do you think it means? And so I didn't know at the time, but now I do know, and I'm living proof of that now. So it involves making and keeping promises to yourself, setting boundaries. I'm just reading this off of Google here because I want to look up these things. Lilith and Gemini, and not second-guessing your decisions. Building self-trust requires consistent action, self-compassion, acting in alignment with your values. Acting in alignment with your values. Through self-trust, you do this as well. So that just adds to it. Okay. So, ooh, this is interesting. Okay. So maybe you just felt, and this is common with Aries South Node as well, life is tough and you have to survive and you have to get through life as the best possible way because nobody's going to be there for you. No one's going to love you. No one's going to be trusting you. And that is sad. That is a sad life to live. When you feel like, no one can be by your side and form a meaningful relationship with them. And it's hard to, forgive yourself when it comes to what you had to do with coming to survive instead of leading into Taurus, leading into what with more gentle, more Taurian ways of doing it can be. When people with this energy step into self-value that others won't see them for, it's about not just relying on others to see them. If you feel so strongly like others are not seeing who you are and their value, then it's time to kind of look within and go, you know what? I don't need that. I'm good as I am. I'm validating myself as a worthy human being as I am, without others needing to validate that. So I already covered that. So showing up in your life through the energies of loving yourself, self-esteem, in this way, not like with your flaws and you're judging yourself like Virgo, but anyway, it's more of a self-worth thing. So they have these labels, they have these kind of things about unworthiness because they're afraid of stepping into self-worth. So they define themselves as unworthy, not good enough, undeserving of love, undeserving of food, of peace, and all these things, because they're afraid that if they step into self-worth, others are going to reject it. Others are going to shut them down and go, you're not worthy of this, and you have to do that. Like they were conditioned into a way of believing this about others, that this is so Lilith and Taurus, this is so my friend's chart. He had North Node in Taurus, he also had Lilith in Taurus. I mean, wow. This could, just having both in Taurus is like, wow, his chart is just so interesting, and I want to really study it. Because I'm just very interested in him with the dynamics that I observed as a childhood. I want to, go deep into the aspects that made his life that I perceived as his childhood as difficult and constraining and not freeing as it was. So, they're afraid of stepping into the energy of self-worth because others are going to not like it. And so also feeling like if you are powerful, if you are worthy, others are going to become envious of that, and others are going to use that against you and manipulate you probably, and use it against you and try to take away your power, take away your sense of self-worth, take away your talents and gifts and what you have to offer to the world, and strip you and pull you down back in the Scorpio South Node, and take away your sense of sovereignty when it comes to that. The other thing is, people only seeing how good you are in situations of crisis, and not just in situations of just peace, of just simple peace and being. There's also the fear of abandonment, the fear of being betrayed by others, the fear of not being mistrusted by others. And Scorpio is like, life is, same goes with Aries, because these are both Mars-ruled signs, the South Node, and either one of these signs says life is not fair. Scorpio knows that life is not fair, innately knows that life is not fair, and you're sucked into that energy very, very strongly if you have this placement, and you don't really like the fact, and you want to make life a fairer place, I would think. So, everyone, no matter who they are, what their race is, how old they are, what their title is, what their position is, what their ethnicity is worthy of love. And everyone is worthy of love. You are worthy of love. And I just made a video last week about stepping into the Aquarian age, and if we can accept people as they are and see them for their true worth, see every creature as equal. If we can sacrifice our human needs for, our animalistic needs for, power and control, whatever, then we can see that everyone is worthy of love as they are. So this is the time to really be embodying your North Node, because we are moving out of a power over age, of defining your worth and over others and being restricted, not having the freedom to live a life based off of your own values, to now moving into the Aquarian age, living this kind of life. It's a very, very different flavor to it. So it's hard for you to see yourself as worthy or beautiful. Like there can be insecurity about your body here when it comes to seeing yourself as that, and Taurus energy can, at worst, the shadow of it is not feeling worthy in your body. They try to, okay, so what I have written down here is they try to lean into the energy of value. They feel it's safer to exist in the energy of cutting off their values and desires, like cutting off these things from others and denying that you have, like not being true to yourself. Like this life is about being true to yourself and saying, I have these values. I have these strong desires that are not based off of others, but for myself and who I am, and having these values. Just, you're cutting these things off because, again, for others. So it goes back to that point. And no one can ever take away your inherent value. Nobody can take away is your value, your sense of self-worth, your worth, what you have to give, how worthy you are of yourself, the way that you feel about yourself. Don't live from the outside in and live from the inside out and say, I am worthy of love and I am worthy of my value, regardless of what other people think of me, regardless of how I perceive others to view me. And surround yourself with people that really get you, that really see your value as who you are. Like when it comes to relationship, like that kind of thing as well is very, very important, because relationships is what makes a lot of life worth living, for all the signs, I would say, including this one, which is not focused on relationship exactly, but yeah. Okay. That does not gel for me. I'm gonna skip that. They kind of sabotage themselves. One of the last things I want to say here is that they sabotage themselves by doing things that suck them into the energy of low self-worth. They can kind of, have this pattern of doing things that make them feel unloved and deserving, because that's all that they know how to do, because they were conditioned into that. So, you're conditioned into something, and like you're so conditioned into it, that's what that's what you become familiar with, that's what you act in your life, that's what you show up in your life, that you can't just change the direction, and instead change the narrative and say, I'm going to do things that make myself feel worthy. So you cut your self-worth down instead of not being defined by others and making yourself feel worthy of yourself. Now, another thing is that you may be constantly moving because you're afraid of people seeing you for who you are. You're very, very secretive, keeping yourself under a bushel or in a, whatever the expression is. Because again, it goes back to, self-worth and others seeing your value. You're afraid that, others are going to see you for the true you, and worse, Scorpio can suffer from self-worth issues. They're constantly, moving around. The final thing here, I already emphasized this, but you are worthy. If you can take away something from this, the last thing that I want to end on here is you are worthy, just as you are. You don't need to prove anything to anyone else. You don't need to do anything to anyone else. You are worthy just as you are. Just as you are as a human being, just by being. That's it. You don't need to do or prove anything to be liked in the eyes of others. You're worthy as you are. And on that note, I want to end this very long video about the North Node in Taurus. So this was very, very deep. This is my own one, and I wanted to give it a very, very full outlook and attention that it deserved. And so I hope that you enjoyed this very deep dive into this placement that is so personal to me, that I feel so strongly about in my life. And I value I value this placement. It's one of my values. Is this placement, is astrology. So the astrology itself. So anyway, hope that you enjoyed. I would encourage you to share this with anyone who has this placement in order to find some value out of this video and just the content in this video. Subscribe to my channel. It really, really helped me out with growing the channel. Thank you for listening to the Vastness of Google podcast. And like this video and do all the things. And that is it. I will see you in the next podcast, which will be next week. Which will be, I believe, next week's, the new moon is next week. Or I'm going to talk about I think the new moon in Pisces is supposed to be next week. I have to, see, just get clarification on the details of that, and everything like that, so that I can, give you a video on Pisces new moon. So that's coming up next week. I really shouldn't advertise for that because it's the videos for the series. But anyway, enough talking. Bye for now, everybody.